coming up this week on the Markcast. As the entire alt football community patiently waits, so patient, the alt football community waits for the XFL 2023 team names, getting a lot of questions. What is the XFL even working on right now? Well, I went ahead and asked that question and found out it's actually quite a bit.
So then you must physically bring them to the software people.
Well, no. Yeah, I mean, sometimes. What would you say you do here?
We have lots of things to talk about today. We have Coach Ron Mckie coming on, previewing some of the offenses we might be seeing in the XFL come February. We're talking air raid, run and shoot, RPO.
It's a chance for ideas to go and to see if they actually work. The XFL, they're like, no, you come here, you do it, and you're using really good athletes.
Then the XFL has its specialist showcase and supplemental showcase this weekend, talking with longtime friend of the show, Ernesto Lacayo, a kicker for the Seattle Dragons, ahead of the XFL specialist showcase this weekend.
When you put specialists with other positions, sometimes we get lost in the whole combine, and most of the time we're put at the end. And most of the time everyone's kind of checked out, they've seen what they want to see, and this gives us a chance. Whereas these combines, it's a lot more specific with timing and certain things that we have to do in placements.
And then courtesy of the NFL Alumni Academy and XFL, we are talking with running back Brian Hill, current student, if you will, at the NFL Alumni Academy Session 1, all about his time in the NFL Alumni Academy, the partnership with the XFL, and more.
Even if something does line up in the NFL, say I get signed to the practice squad, if I don't have an opportunity to get game film in the NFL, I'm still going to come off a practice squad after the league's done and play in the XFL.
And then a crazy week in Regina in the CFL. Cody Fajardo is shutting the book. We are moving on, closing the chapter with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, talking with longtime friend of the show, Rob Vanstone, about all of that drama. Should be a good episode. Thanks as always. Please like and subscribe. Hey guys, welcome to the Markcast. Reed here. Thank you all so much for stopping by. Don't be alarmed. Don't change the channel. You might be hearing some new intro music this week. Working on some rebrands, just a little bit, changing up the podcast music here as we are in episode, well into the hundreds here, year 2.5, approaching the XFL kickoff. Trying some new things. Music might be changing a little bit here in the next couple of episodes as we kind of try to fine tune that. But thank you all so much for stopping by today. Our really exciting show coming off of the big Brian Michael Cooper interview last week. I really appreciate you guys checking that out. Big show this week, talking what is the XFL actually working on? Because DMs every day and Facebook and messages like, what the heck is the XFL even doing? What's going on? Well, he asked the question today. We have a lot of exciting things to talk about. We're talking, as I previewed off the top, with Rob Mckie coming on, talking, kind of offensive schemes. What should we be looking for from these coaches? Getting Ron's thoughts on the XFL, kind of the hires so far. What do we think the teams are going to look like in terms offensively on the field? What does Ron think of, spring football and kind of the different maybe offenses that should be run in spring football versus the NFL. Really excited to talk with Ron today. Really appreciate that. We have Ernesto Lacayo coming on, the longtime friend. Remember, Ernesto co-hosted when Paul was having his dental surgery back during the XFL, CFL merger talks. Ernesto, kicker for our Seattle Dragons, and getting ready for the specialist showcase this weekend. Ernesto is already in California, acclimating to all of that. The preparation Ernesto puts in for the work that he does is astounding. We are talking the specialist showcase. We're talking the IFL partnership with the XFL, all of that stuff. Really appreciate Ernesto, literally like getting ready for probably the biggest, training session, showcase, whatever of his life coming on. Really appreciate that. NFL alumni participant Brian Hill is coming on the show, courtesy of the Alumni Academy. Thank you guys all so much, and the XFL for facilitating that. Really great conversation with Brian, talking about his time in Arlington. He's part of the first session of the Alumni Academy. So there's a couple more throughout the year. These players working to get back to the NFL, or then obviously getting the guaranteed spot in the XFL, training camps. Very excited to talk with Brian, his time, what the work that they're doing with the Alumni Academy, the coaches there, the drills, everything else, conditioning, everything that goes into that, keeping these players in prime, peak prime position to get back, either to a team or, like I said, to the XFL in February. And then chaos this week. I was going to have Rob Vanstone on the show anyway, and then it really did work out with the benching of Cody Fajardo, a longtime, frenemy of the show, has famously blocked us on Twitter. Is Cody Fajardo the man in black? All of that stuff. Mason Fine taking over in Saskatchewan here, headed into the final week of the regular season. Really excited to talk with Rob about all of that and get his thoughts on the CFL as well. So thank you all so much for that. Pack Show, hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and you could get your very own autographed Spring League football courtesy of friend of the show, Brian Scott. Remember, if you are subscribed to the show, when we hit 2,500 subscribers, you have a chance to win this beauty. So make sure you are subscribed. Really appreciate that. Here we go. We are approaching the XFL draft, waiting to get that announced, team names, kind of all that stuff. I know that we are kind of in the mucky muck now where Hurricane Ian, which Jay Noakes and I reported back in September that postponed the XFL team names. Now, I saw CBS sports director in Vegas corroborating that story, but still trying to figure out when we're getting the team names, and MLB is going on, and we have football, and the world is never right. This is an issue when you want to launch a football league after the Super Bowl, dealing with a lot of news cycle headed into that. So anyway, we are trying to figure that out, what is going to happen. But in the meantime, hey guys, Future Read here. Literally just got done recording, sat down to edit, courtesy of Jay Noakes, just tweeting out here. It looks like at least the San Antonio Town Hall for the XFL has been rescheduled to November 2nd. King KINGG Mars on Twitter sharing the screenshot email from the huddle. Says, as a huddle member for San Antonio, you and a guest are invited to join the XFL and head Coach Hines Ward in San Antonio at Yard House. I love Yard House downtown on Wednesday, November 2nd. The coach will host a chalk talk, take time to answer questions, and spend time with you as he prepares for the season ahead. Appetizers will be provided. This is nice. Anyway, could be more of these coming out today, but yeah, it looks like so maybe a week after next. Maybe we got to get through next week, and then the town halls will be coming at least to San Antonio, November 2nd. Anyway, that is your Future Read update. We'll see if any other ones come out today, but at least we have that, and be looking out for more town hall announcements, reschedules, potentially the first week of November. Thanks. Think we have a good show this week. Please like and subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching. I will pop back in at the end of the show, and thanks again. Well, here we go. We have Coach Ron Mckie here. Very excited. YouTube superstar, breaking down all this stuff. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate it. I was saying, trying to find and source people. I'm always excited when I post a teaser, so-and-so's coming up, and I get people messaging me. I'm very excited for this interview. So no pressure, but people are looking forward to this.
Oh, well, hey, no pressure here either. I love talking football. I could talk football until the cows come home, as they say down here in the South. So I'm excited.
Well, this is good. So we'll do general XFL stuff, and then we have Max help me come up with some questions here. We're kind of, we're in this dead spot right now. I think we're getting the XFL team names the first week in November now. We've just had more emails get sent out here kind of as I'm recording today, but previewing kind of what we're going to look for with some of these head coaches and offenses and stuff. First off, thoughts on from you looking at XFL 2023. I mean, some of the coaches that are involved, Gene Jones, Jim Haslett, stuff like that. What is striking you from kind of this collection of people they have?
One, I am excited just that it's back. Right before the disease that will not be named, or the virus that will not be named, I went down to Houston, and I was actually got to walk on the sidelines, go to practice for the Roughnecks. I met June Jones, who's a hero of mine. AJ Smith was his wide receivers coach, and I know AJ. And I was thrilled that it's back, because the XFL is kind of embracing those guys that have quote unquote fringe offense and defenses. I have no idea, by the way, why I have my son's plastic wrench right here. So I'm going to put that down. And it's a chance for ideas to go and to see if they actually work. A lot of people have some ideas and they're like, I don't think that'll work in the NFL. Or if you're going to try that, you're going to have to try it at an off-brand college, not one of the Power Fives. But the XFL, they're like, no, you come here, you do it. And you're using, a really, really good athletes to do it. So that is, I can't wait. And anytime I can see June Jones coach football in the run and shoot, and he runs it so well, I'm like, I'm there. That's my man. I'm going to watch the heck out of it.
Well, it's exciting. And, some of the questions, and Max helped me come up with some of this too, is just with spring football, it's a different mindset too. You're coming in, it's a much shorter ramp up, right? We're trying to get everyone. I mean, we saw USFL, I think it was 2.5 weeks of training camp going into the season. I mean, you're just running different schemes, right?
Yeah, and that's also a good thing because then you can kind of see which schemes, when you simplify it, actually work a lot. That's why usually the run and shoot, when June was down there during the last time of the XFL, they had the same amount of time, but they were able to get so many reps in for a couple of reasons. One, he embraced virtual reality, which I love, and I know a lot of the high tier Power 5 schools in college use it, but he was actually able to do it. So they were getting mental reps right when they got off the field to get that. And then 2, you really have to simplify it. So can your stuff that you're calling, both offensively and defensively, work about 80% of the time? Because usually in those longer, the NFL, college and stuff like that, they have such a, training camps and then mini camps, and they can put a whole bunch of stuff in. But the XFL is forcing you to go, okay, what's your bread and butter? And are you going to actually stick with it? Or are you going to try to expand the playbook that every coach has to fight because we just see a new play and we're like, oh, I want to try that. So I love it.
So we have it kind of broken down here. The coordinators coming in, kind of the schemes they normally run. We have run and shoot, right? You said AJ Smith going to be down in Houston, June Jones in Seattle, and then air raid. Chuck Long and Jonathan Hayes with the Arlington, the Dallas, whatever team. Spread RPO in DC. Dwayne Taylor, he says here we still don't kind of know what scheme. When you saw these coordinators be brought in, AJ Smith returning, June Jones not being the head coach, now being the offensive coordinator for my Seattle team, presumably the Sea Dragons is what we have. But what do you thoughts on the group they have assembled?
I love it, honestly, and I'm kind of curious how AJ is going to do compared to what June does, because AJ would have when he paired up with June. See, when AJ, and if you're watching AJ. Freaking love you, man, and congrats again on the wedding. When he was by himself, he threw the ball. He kind of tailors himself after John Jenkins. Like, if I could go an entire game without running, I would, and I love that. And with all the different offenses, I know the football purists are going to hate it because a lot of them are spread, throw it out, RPO type stuff, and they hate that. They want get all 11 bodies in the box and just pound it. No. So I'm excited to see what new wrinkles they're putting out, because these guys are really the purest of their offense. Most of them created the offense themselves or are one step removed from the person that created it. And the same thing goes for the defense. Like, I'm excited that Wade Phillips is in it, right? I read that. Yeah. I'm excited that they hired him back after being the scapegoat of the Super Bowl. Excuse me, and seeing what he is doing defensively. Like, it's a melting pot of really smart coaches that are getting unshackled and letting their imagination run wild. And as a football fan and as a coach, I cannot wait to see what they do.
We've had a lot on here, and we had Eric Galco on, the former DPP of 2020. And there's been all this talk about, is there enough talent? Is there enough bodies? And obviously you have the quarterback and then the offensive line. Issues with that, does that cause them to have to run different schemes, have different plans, and just how hard it is to get enough guys that are good enough to play?
It does, but these coaches are so entrenched in their offensive philosophy that they will maybe stray just a little bit from it, but they're going to keep their overall philosophy of what they believe in. And because when you run these kind of offenses, you're kind of a little bit mental, where you think you can make anybody. Your offense is so good you could just plug and play, and the offense will produce because the offense attacks every area of the field and the defense can't cover it all. It's just, can I teach them in a certain amount of time? And then it goes back into, well, what are my bread and butter plays? And we'll just rep those over and over again. And hopefully the quarterback and the offensive line understand what they're trying to do. And with enough reps, it'll get good and they'll be scoring a crap ton of points.
So we got some questions here. We've seen it easier for the XFL teams to install an air raid or run and shoot or a spread in limited time frame. We talked about this, the 5-week training. What about like air raid or run and shoot makes it easier to prepare, in the shorter time frame?
Because there's not that many plays. With the air raid, it's really when you get down to it, it's just a handful of plays. You go, okay, these plays right here, I'm going to get great at. It's kind of like the triple option. I don't care if the other team knows it. We have repped it so much in practice and throughout the season that we're experts at it, whereas the opposing team, they only have 2 to 3 days to rep everything. And then the second aspect of that, and this ties into the run and shoot, and the air raid gives some ability inside the routes, is that it's based on what the defense does. So it doesn't matter what the defense is doing. Whatever they do, there's a counter to it in real time. So the structure, the run and shoot is a lot more of that than the air raid. Like the air raid has certain players that are within the play, but the run and shoot, the pure run and shoot, it's all 4 receivers can make breaks based on the leverage of what the defensive back is doing or the safeties or the linebackers. And when you can get everybody on the same page, there's nothing that can stop it. And when you go all in on that, that's the only thing you're practicing. A lot of other coaches, when they run spread RPOs or things like that, they dabble in different things. They're like, oh, what was that play Tennessee's running? Let's try that. Or what's Alabama doing? And then they start adding plays, and that takes away time from their core plays. And that's one of the faults of people that run like pro style or stuff like that, because you're always tinkering. And in the NFL and in college, you have enough time for that. But in the XFL, you really don't have that time. So you have to have an amount of plays, and that is where the air raid and the run and shoot philosophy is like, hey, 5, 6, 7 plays max, and we'll give freedom within it, and then we're just working on the finer details.
Talking about, simplifying, we have a question here about, the shortened play clock back in 2020, and presumably, we're still waiting on the rule book and all that, but the increased tempo, how does that relate to running these schemes and necessitating more agile kind of people in the play clock?
Now, I'm not an expert. I wouldn't even say I'm an expert on offense, but on defense, they have to make wordier calls to be able to check for everything that the offense is doing. Where with the offense, they could kind of get one-word plays in and go really fast, and you can just a quick little signal. Like I know for one of the air raids, it's just this and that. That's like blue 92. And then everybody knows what they're doing. They can hurry up, get to the line of scrimmage, and just go off like that. Where defense they still have one-word calls as defense. They're base checks, but going so fast, and if you rep it over and over again, the defense always has to react to what the offense is doing. So that gives a little bit of time between the calls that the offense has an advantage. And when you're hurrying up, that really does wonders. If you don't believe me, watch Tennessee. Like they've been in that system now for 2 or 3 years. I can't remember off the top of my head. So when they go super fast, even now, defenses are still struggling. Look at Alabama. They gave up the most points in Saban's history because they're going fast. And then also that allows offenses, once they go fast, to kind of dictate the tempo. Hey, we can go fast, fast, fast. Oh, psych, we can go on 2 this time, or we can check with me or something like that. So you're always keeping the defense on its toes. And I know defensive coaches hate that, but, suck at defense, offense.
I went to Gonzaga, so my college football is a little lacking, but that goalpost and everything was the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. Yes. It was awesome.
It was such a good game that my wife, who doesn't normally watch football, watched the whole game. And then yesterday, no lie, she sat down and was like, hey, so who does Tennessee play this week? I want to see them play. I really like their style. And if my wife, who hates football and only puts up with me so she can be with me, likes that kind of tempo and that all that scoring, I don't understand why people get mad at that.
Are you surprised, he has a question here, Hal Mumme or June Jones didn't try to take advantage of the double forward pass more and kind of implementing that in back in 2020?
A little bit. I don't think they had enough time. Like if it went on maybe the next year, because I've talked to Hal, I know Hal, and I know he's a tinkerer. He likes in the off season seeing, okay, what are the air raid plays and how can we put a little wrinkle to that? And I'm sure if he had more time, they would have put that in.
When the USFL, because they had like a kind of a double forward pass too in their thing this year. The famous Landry Jones and where it got batted back and he threw it again. And that was one of the most popular crowd moments of XFL 2020. I wish we'd seen more of that.
I completely agree. I like that the XFL is willing to take a risk on certain things. Like I love their kickoff idea. I thought that was brilliant. And I know that's a big thing in at least the high school area, where how can we eliminate, stupid injuries and things like that. And that right there is unbelievable. I don't know why the NFL or more colleges, maybe the lower tier colleges or high school isn't trying that, because it works. And the XFL is embracing, hey, we got to be different. How can we be a little bit different so that it creates excitement and people want to come out and people want to watch?
Well, and you still have Al Michaels, and it's a touchback. Even the NFL, even now they make fun of it. It's like if you know it's an issue. USFL moved back the kickoff, but they still had the guys running into each other. It just seemed like, okay, now we're giving them more runway to kind of hit harder.
And I'm going to be honest, as a former player, and I played in college for a year before I tore my arm up, I hated kickoff and kickoff return. I hated it because if I was on kickoff return, I had to take the blow. Because I'm not fast enough or athletic enough to actually run with the ball. I had to block the big guys. And then on the flip side, running all the way down there just to get there, if it's a kickoff, all the coaches even if it's a touchback, go all the way to the end zone. I got to run 60 yards, then come back. And now I have to play a series on defense. That sucks. So if anything we can do to, not have to do the injuries and keep the players fresh so that, let's call a spade. Football kind of gets attacked when bad things happen, like Tua or something like that with the injuries. So if we can kind of negate the injuries and still keep it violent enough where everyone's like, I love football, I don't see why we aren't doing that.
He's talking here about Bob Stoops and Hal back in 2020. They had quarterback issues and having injuries, and Landry Jones. It says if injuries sideline their preferred options at quarterback again, how can Bob Stoops and Chuck Long, Jonathan Hayes better adapt if they have a quarterback that might be lacking in arm strength and running some of their schemes?
You can implement more screens and everything like that. But remember, if you go in with the philosophy, you are thinking this offense can work with anybody. A lot of fans and everything are like, oh, if they can't do it, they've got to go to a run-heavy formation. Well, if you've been practicing passing or up-tempo or things like that, making a sudden change, even if you don't have I know the Cowboys made a sudden change when Dak went out instead of from pass-heavy to run-heavy, but you really don't have that in the XFL per se, those many good players. You kind of just got to suck it up and maybe screens, quick plays, some more runs, but it's really difficult to go from a pass first kind of philosophy to, oh crap, let's go more to a run first, because those are different styles, different philosophies, different players. Now you have to teach them different things. Like for instance, in the air raid, you maybe only have 3 runs. And then all of a sudden you're saying, oh, we don't have the quarterback. So now let's put in 23 more runs. And then you don't have the time to do that. And you have to focus more time on it. And then if you do get good at running, well, that hurts your passing game. So what happens when you do have to pass and the players are rusty because they're not running the passing routes, or they're not catching as many balls in the practice, and they start dropping it? Then people complain about that. So it's a catch-22. And usually if you believe in something, you're just going to ride or die with it.
Cam Phillips, we track him obviously and up in CFL now. It's talking Cam Phillips dominating XFL with his route running ability despite not having combine numbers jumping off the page. Because of choice routes being so key, is it easier for run and shoot teams to take advantage of great route runners that maybe aren't elite athletes but run better?
Yeah, and it's an equalizer, because if you don't have the athletic ability, but you're a lot more, have a higher football IQ, you can read it. And again, the run and shoot is, if they go this way, I go that way. So it really doesn't matter which way the defense is playing. So that gives you the benefit of, oh, I know where I'm going based on where you were at. So you were never going to be right. So if I have precise route running ability and I can cut on a dime and I can read the defense right, I will always be open. So it doesn't matter if you're a 4.2 speed and I'm a 4.4, I'm making the decision before you. So I'll still have an advantage. Now it may not be a home run ball, but if I can make 10 yards, 15, 20, and just keep moving down the field, I'm always going to have the advantage.
Talking about bringing in quarterbacks that maybe aren't used to like a run and shoot, what's the most challenging aspect of kind of picking that up?
Reading the defense and being on the same page with your wide receiver. That is the biggest thing. But if you think about it, that kind of goes back to backyard football. We just drew up plays, and then if it didn't work, they start scrambling and going everywhere. And then, oh, okay, I know he's going this way. And so you need to get a lot of reps. That's the major key. And I go back to the virtual reality. That's where it's huge, because the way it is now, I'm sure it's an advance in the past 2 years, but they were literally filming practice. And then right after practice, they would upload it, put the goggles on, and then you were coaching and getting mental reps. And then they would go back out. And the beautiful thing with this is you're running the same plays you were yesterday. So not only did you get reps in practice, you get reps after practice mentally. So now oh, okay, well, if this guy does this again, then I'm going this way. And you're getting reps after reps. So to tie it all in, it's if you're not used to it, which not many people are, you have to get the reps. But the beautiful thing is choice routes are starting to spread everywhere. Like a lot of colleges run it and a lot of NFL teams run it. So they do have an aspect of different kind of routes breaking off depending on what the defense is. So I don't think that leap is as bad as it was in previous years.
He's got here about PJ Walker. I mean, first off, congrats, PJ, getting another start again. Are you, I guess not surprised, but with, thoughts that PJ and the XFL 2020, stand out so they're still holdovers in the NFL?
No. When I saw him at practice before the games, I was like, oh my God, this guy is amazing. And this is why I'm thankful for the XFL, is because just like in college, some high school kids fall through the cracks and a college scoops him up and he's a player. When you're a guy, and he's been a guy everywhere he's been in high school and college and everything like that, you're still going to be a guy. And when you give someone with really good abilities the freedom to kind of quote unquote freestyle in an offense and pick it up, beautiful things happen. And you can see who the players really are. And I really like it as a coach, seeing players get another chance to prove themselves against, maybe bottom level tier guys compared to the NFL that were just right there on the cusp, but didn't get it because they didn't have a shot. So now they have film, be like, hey, I'm going against these guys who did play in the NFL for a little bit or on practice squads or something like that. I can hold my own. And when teams see that, like, oh, okay, we kind of made a mistake. Let's bring this person in.
Yeah, on this episode, I'm talking with one of the NFL alumni guys, Brian Hills, out there trying to get back in. And he said the same thing. Like, even if he's on a practice squad, he might opt in to do the XFL because they have this whole pipeline here going into the XFL, just because being able to get that game tape and being able to show, and versus kind of sitting on the practice squad, even though the pay and everything, it's hard.
Yeah, because also when you're on the practice squad, you want to show out, but you don't want to show out and like hurt a star player or hurt a starter or something like that, because then you get blackballed or you get pooped on, and you could go. Now you can be like, hey, I'm going to get starter against starter, see what I can do. I can also do this on your squad. And, it really helps when you have film to show it instead of individual drills, because sometimes people are all world beaters in drills. Then you put them in a game situation and they just blank out. And so now you have film.
Speaking of PJ, he was talking about how, PJ is so mobile, right out of the pocket, kind of scramble, doing all that. Pairing that with a run and shoot quarterback, like how much more lethal is that in having someone that with his ability?
It's nasty because it's the run and shoot. Like you have the ability to pull the ball and run. So now defensively, think about it. You have to go against a up-tempo team, which that drains you mentally and physically. Your wide receivers can break off routes, so you have to be sharp and hopefully, try to stay squared up as much as possible. Then you add in the element of a running quarterback, who then you have to worry about the zone option or some kind of option in that. And it's a pain in the, pardon my French, ass to have to do that, because if you start dropping everybody back, well, that's how they passed a run. So if you start dropping back 8, you only got 3, and you got 2 good running backs, or quarterback and a running back there. How are you going to stop that? You really can't. So you have to pick your poison and have it. Any offense that has an athletic quarterback, you gain another advantage over the defense.
I try to read ahead here and kind of figure this. I just got to read this out because I'm like, how can I phrase this in my own words? XFL revised the ineligible man downfield rules. O-line can't be more than 3 yards downfield until passer throws the ball past the line of scrimmage in 2020 to make it easier to officiate and easier to execute RPOs. Did you notice that when you saw it? Is that a rule you'd like to see implemented at other levels?
Well, that's how it is at the high school level and in college. So I know defensive coaches hate this, and there's some blatant, like in the NFL, I saw one, or maybe it was in college football. I think it was Ole Miss. They ran a quarterback design run, and they leaked the running back out on the wheel, and they hit him. Now, they had an offensive lineman like 8 yards down the field, and it should have been a penalty. But you also have to think from the ref's point of view. They're going fast. There's 11 bodies out there. You're trying to keep up with everything, and offense is always kind of above defense in certain areas. It's very difficult to call right there. So I'm all for any rule change that helps the offense because I'm an offensive guy. So I say go for it. In my experience, I've only been called for a guy down the field with that rule one time, and that was on my quarterback's fault, not the offensive line's fault. So it's a nice rule in theory, but it'll hardly ever get called, which is good because that means more points.
Well, but even they were saying, even in the USFL, they're trying to call and not call certain things. It's like, we just kind of got to get this going here. We got to call a little bit more.
Yeah. I would say just call it. Refs, if you think it's a guy down the field, call it. But again, the beauty of RPOs and stuff like that is the offensive line doesn't know it's going to be a pass. They think it's just a run. So even if they don't know it, how's a ref going to know that it also a play is designed to be a pass as well? So he's right here looking at the box, and then there's a guy 3 yards, and then all of a sudden the ball's behind him being thrown. It's very difficult. I wish they would give the refs a little bit of leeway because a lot of people yell at it, but you have to put yourself in his position. That is a difficult call to make, to know, where is that at? Is that 3 yards or 4 yards? Now, if it's 10 yards down the field, yeah, you can't make it that blatant, but come on.
We have the draft here coming up, presumably here November 16th, 17th. Someone like June Jones or AJ, when they're putting their teams together, different players are going to be looking for the draft with their scheme versus other coaches?
Yeah, they are. They're probably going to try to get the best. Usually, I would rank it, I think it's quarterbacks, then some offensive line, because if you don't have an offensive line, for any offense, it is very difficult to run it. And then probably wide receivers. I know them. They like wide receivers. I don't know this. If I could tell the future, I would not be here. I would have invested all into Amazon and right there with Jeff Bezos on his yacht. But I would say running backs probably pretty low on the draft pecking order for them.
What are you most excited to see from them coming back? And I know we talked in the quality and everything else here coming into this year with the coaches, but specifically those two and anyone else you're excited to see?
The wrinkles. I'm not going to give away the play, but AJ has a beautiful play that's a counter to the 60 the go route. And I've never seen it before. And when I was there, AJ was like, hey, make sure you watch this play right there. Like he would signal it to me on the sideline. It's like, watch this one. And it was a thing of beauty. So the little wrinkles they are adding into their offense to make a already deadly offense deadlier and make it harder on the defense, that's what I'm looking for. And then also, I love hearing the play calls. Like, I think that's the best thing right there was when we could hear them say the play. And I was like that, the Leo meme where I'm like, hey, I know that play right there. That's what I like. And then when you can hear that, and watch it. And if I don't know the play, I can be like, oh, that's a counter to this main play that they have. That's really smart. That's really special. I cannot wait to see more of that.
Well, I think it's cool and, educating the football fans. I know Sam Schwartzstein now is with like Amazon running all that stuff. For them, I just think it's cool, that whole philosophy of we want to make football fans smarter and we want people to learn stuff they didn't know. Exactly.
It's pull the cloak away and let us know the ins and outs, because when you're passionate about something, you want to know everything about it. And I know that a lot of fans, it's easier to talk to them now because they have a little baseline knowledge of what it is. And that gets you more interested because you're not like, oh, my team X is running X, Y, and Z, and I know what happened. Or when I'm watching it, I can say, oh, that defensive guy blew it up because it was a power and the guard didn't miss his block. So now I don't have to scream block somebody. I can actually understand what the schemes and concepts are going on.
I'm very much, the casual person, so I feel like I've learned as much as anyone kind of doing all this stuff just because this is not my background in any sort of football or athletics at all.
But I'm sure you enjoy it. You're like, oh, okay, I understand that. Or if you hear the same play call 3 or 4 times, you're like, oh, I know what play's coming. And then you can see if it actually happens. And it's kind of like if you like movies or you have your favorite director. So then you kind of see different shots he makes throughout his films, like what's his thing. So for instance, like how Mummy, when he calls 92, you're like, oh, I know that's mesh. Is it? And then if he tags something to that, you're like 92 wheel. You're like, oh, okay, I know it's mesh, but now he's added a little wrinkle to it. So I can file that away for the next time I see it. And then also the cool thing is you can see those plays and those kind of calls kind of show up then in other aspects of sport, like the NFL or college. You're like, oh, I saw that here. I know what that play is. That's really cool. And you can see how the game and ideas and concepts move from level to level, and they're all the same, but with little tweaks. And that gets you more excited. And I really do believe that when you know about it, it builds the love for the game. And that ultimately you just want the game of football to spread everywhere, which it's doing right now.
Anything else before I let you go? I really appreciate this. I mean, in terms of like USFL, did that exist on your radar here going into year 2 now where we've got competing all leagues? Okay, why was that?
I've always had a soft spot for the XFL because the very first year I was coming into college and the crazy things that they were doing and the name tags. I still remember he hate me. Like that's awesome how they did the coin toss and stuff. And I'm a huge rock fan. So for him to step in and be like, hey, we're going to bring this back. And I really enjoyed what was going on in the last time it was out there. And then I was kind of pissed that COVID hit and cut that short. So just to see them come back and to see, again, the purists, the people that actually built these offenses, being able to run it and given the freedom to run it, how they envisioned it makes me really excited for this. And plus, if I could get football all year long, I'm 100% happy. When I get in like a seasonal depression once the NFL and college stops, I'm like, oh God, I got to watch baseball now. I hate baseball. No offense to anybody that likes baseball, but now it's like, oh, okay, well, the Super Bowl's over with, but now the XFL is coming up shortly, so I cannot wait for that.
Last question for me. Any of these guys that stand out, right? Like AJ Smith, whatever. Who do you see maybe getting on more of the NFL radar here if they really excel this season?
Honestly, AJ. He's a really smart dude that knows this stuff. He's worked with a lot of the legends, so he knows it. He's adding his little wrinkles into it. I would be surprised that within the next 5 years if he's not in some capacity in the NFL doing his thing.
That would be exciting.
It would, because now I'll be like, hey, AJ, let me come to an NFL practice.
Well, I really appreciate your time today. This was good. I think we did good. I think I asked all the questions I was supposed to. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully here, we're getting ready to action here soon. As soon as we get by the draft and some other, we're kind of in the drought right now, so we're really looking forward to some good news here coming soon.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me, man. I could talk about this anytime.
Well, Ron Mckie, thank you so much again, and take care.
Yeah, you too, man.
Well, this is very exciting. Longtime friend, third time on, came on our Thanksgiving episode a couple years ago, and then was actually co-host with me on one of the most viewed episodes we ever had, which was when the XFL CFL mergers talked here. We have Ernesto Lacayo here, former XFL Dragons member. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good. Enjoying every single day and just getting ready for what's to come.
This is exciting. So, Ernesto, we're getting ready for the Specialist Showcase here coming up on Sunday in San Diego, right? Is that what's going on? And so we thought it was good here, catch up with Ernesto, see what's going on, kind of preview that, talk about the need to have Specialist Showcases and everything else. First off, how's your life? What's going on and what are you working on right now?
Life's good. Living in the good old, pretty warm Arizona, getting used to that and enjoying sweating every single day, but training and making sure my focus is at where I need to be in order to get ready for anything that's coming. And just been playing arena football the last 2 years. So back in that whole mess of of mind screwing when it comes to kicking the small goalposts and synthetic footballs, it just feels good and refreshing to be getting a chance to get back to the XFL.
What did you I'm thinking about, what did you think announced here I guess this week officially announced the XFL's partnership with the IFL, and just knowing that guys, it's got to be kind of cool for guys that, in that league and being able to move around. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great opportunity for the IFL itself because it legitimizes the league a little bit more. They always want like TV deals, but arena football has gone down a little bit, but now coming back up with the IFL and more teams and just the play, there's more parity in the league. But having this merger with or partnership with the XFL, it just established itself a little bit better, and more athletes are going to being able to come in through there and not have to worry about making these big jumps or having to figure out what are the next steps to get to each league with the stages. I mean, I was one of the few guys that from the IFL in 2019 to jump up to the XFL. And that was big in itself, but I think you're going to see a much more influx of players moving up to the XFL and vice versa or also go to the NFL. So it's great for all the leagues itself.
Can you, and as someone that's kind of been a part of all this, obviously, in the hierarchy, right, XFL will put up, but in terms of like jumping and pay scales and stuff, how does the IFL compare to what we presume is going to be the XFL pay structure this year?
Oh, it's dramatic. It's night and day.
Okay.
It just, every organization in the IFL is, structurally different with veterans and rookies. I mean, to be a veteran in the indoor football league, it takes about 4 years to get established as a veteran. And most guys don't even last that long. I'm one of very few guys that have been, now going 10 years in the arena. It's really pretty tough there, but each team is structurally different in how they want to pay. As far as the XFL, I mean, if you want to look at it in basic terms, like, nuts and bolts compared to, being paid thousands and thousands of dollars and not having to worry about things. So, you have to kind of have second jobs here and there in the IFL and make things work just because every team is different. Some teams like the Rattlers is an organization that take care of its players with housing and food and whatnot. And so, a lot of these young guys have to learn to grow up pretty quickly and know how to manage their money in that case. But in the XFL, I mean, it's dramatically. I did hear that the XFL might be paying less than the last time when I was there, but you don't really ever know until you're actually there. The league starts up and then everything is kind of put out there.
In terms of the transition for you from, kicking in the arena game, then, going to the XFL, what was that transition like?
Well, it was easier to kick in the XFL just because of the fact that the goalpost was bigger, the ball was leather, easier to control. The only thing you do have to battle with was the environment in the spring. That was big compared to what the NFL goes through in the fall. The spring is much more brutal with the winds and the snow and just different environments all over the country. That was a little bit difficult. But as far as, it was a sigh of relief when I left the arena leagues because it just was bigger and easier. Now, the misconception was that a lot of people think that the arena kickers cannot play outdoors. For some guys who are in like Iowa or South Dakota where they can't kick but inside all year long, they come outside. There's a transition there. But for some of the West Coast, like for me in Arizona or in San Diego, I was always kicking outside. So I never really lost a step. And it was just easy in that sense because I think everyone has that misconception about the arena kickers. But if the kicker is training consistently, they make it work. I think it's a lot difficult to kick an arena and control a football that's not leather.
So XFL, we kind of did the 6 preliminary showcases. We went to the Arizona one down there that they had. Now they're doing the specialist showcase here, and they're doing the supplemental one on Saturday, and then it's kind of a whole weekend here to kind of round out before the draft. What did you think, knowing they were doing these showcases, doing the specialist one specifically for you guys?
I think it's good because it gives a chance for the specialists, the snappers, the punters, and the kickers, which I also think they should add returners because returners are also specialists. That way you can get a chance and see what they can do. But I think it's great because it gives much more of a central location, also just looking at us and being able to just focus on us. Because when you put specialists with other positions, sometimes we get lost in the whole combine. And most of the time we're put at the end. And most of the time everyone's kind of checked out. They've seen what they want to see. And doesn't give us a chance. Whereas these combines, it's a lot more specific with timing and certain things that we have to do in placements. Because in the XFL compared to the NFL, especially I'm going to talk about kickoffs, we can't kick the ball in the end zone like we see in the NFL. We're backed up to the 30-yard line, which is a lot farther kick, and we have to be much more strategic and more skillful in placing the ball to the right or to the left. A lot of kickers are pretty one-dimensional. They're all trying to kick these long balls, and they start to tell people like, oh, can you do an onside kick or can you place the ball? And you'd be surprised how one-dimensional some people are. So the skill set's going to be much more interesting. Sometimes, there's a lot of this controversy of how many guys are in these combines, but is what it is. It's a great platform for a lot of us specialists from young to a lot more veteran experience, and just being able to showcase what we can do.
I like it as well because I do think, and with spring football, limited rosters sometimes, I think special teams kind of gets that short shift, right? We dealt with that in the USFL. We had Matt Mangle, one of our friends, he was trying to punt and kick, and then there was issues because then, we didn't have enough players to play all the positions to kind of double, right? We're doubling up where now the USFL, it did expand their roster later in the season to kind of remedy that a little bit, but I like where special teams is, a third of the game, so important, especially in spring football where you're probably kicking a lot more field goals sometimes. It's nice to feel like we're getting that it has that same priority in them doing this showcase for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, I know Matt Mangle personally. I just saw him actually Friday last week. And, we're always discussing, a lot of us who are combo guys. I was a kicker that can punt in college. I did it all throughout high school and college. And I've always been able to at least do it at the same time. And, a lot of teams are still asking for combo guys. But for this combine, a lot of kickers don't punt. A lot of punters don't kick. For those that can do all three disciplines, it's difficult because at the same time, you are taking up a roster spot as opposed for someone who specializes in that position. I think as a kicker, I'm going in as showing that I can punt to show them that I can do it. I still think that in the NFL, there's a reason why you have a punter and a kicker that can just specialize in that and really be good at it. I think you kind of hurt the game a little bit by having combo guys and not being good at one or the other. We saw that a lot in the USFL. I saw a lot of punters who I know can kick, but I know that we're not as accurate, and it kind of hurts their stock when they're trying to move up to the NFL. I think you got to be very careful and be very sure of what you can do. That way it doesn't hurt your stock when people in the higher leagues come look at you.
No, I totally agree. And I mean, that it's the same, I do wedding videography, and, there's some companies who do both, and it's, don't you do, it's like, there's pros and cons. You hire a photographer, you hire video, you have people that can do both. But like you said, there's always one priority on that. You're either a punter that can also kick, or you're a kicker that can also punt. And interesting that way. So as you were with the 2020 Dragons here, and you said hopeful coming back to the XFL, and I know that they were kind of doing the 2020 guys are able to come in, but you're saying they want the specialists at this showcase so that all the coaching staffs can kind of see, because everyone's going to be there, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, we're curious to see. I'm hoping all the coaches are going to be there, and maybe the higher ups, just to see what we specialists go through on a consistent basis, because I think we get lost in the whole, we hear all these memes and jokes about specialists, we just do so little. You'd be surprised. Some of these guys who work at their craft day in and day out, the ability of what they can do, and the small little inches that you have to be in placements and rotations, and then just in the different environment. I think San Diego is a great place to do it. We will be at a high school field, so you're gonna have to figure out smaller goalposts and stuff. And a lot of us a lot of the guys have never kicked with an XFL ball. I was lucky to not sell mine away or throw mine away. I had two left, and I've been offered quite a lot of money to someone to use it. I'm like, we just don't know what's going to be happening. They say they're going to let us use XFL footballs, but we'll find out. On Sunday. But that's another factor we have to put in. But seeing all the coaches are going to be there, that way they can put a face to the name and all that stuff. And we'll see what happens. I mean, a lot of us would like to go respectively back to our teams, but there's other teams in the market fishing around and see what they can get.
You were saying before about, the kickers do so little and kind of all that stuff. Like, I hate the disrespect that, like, because I watch a lot of NFL, and especially now, like, just this week, NFL people, they're meeting, all the owners are doing their fall meeting, and they're talking about how happy they are that the game margin is so close, right? Because all the teams and the parity, and you want all that. And so many more of the games are coming down to kickers, right? And field goals. We just saw Monday, the Chargers, the guy had, like, pulled his hamstring middle of the game. He's kicking on, like, and then still after the game, they're still talking the same, like, wow, the kickers. I'm like, they just won the game. Like, can we please, like, normalize kind of that? It really frustrates me.
I think in the past, a lot has been done where some of the specialists play into the role too much, where, I did so much throughout my career, building my body, making tackles. I mean, I just came off a 22 tackle season in Arena, just wanting to do those things just to show that we are athletes as well. But, I think a lot of the people just, if everyone could do it, you'd be seeing everyone do it. And I think a lot of people that bash on specialists is because, they just can't do it. We see all these times in halftime shows or during the games where people are like, oh, can field goal win this much? We're like, oh, I can do that. And suddenly, they shank it. It goes under the goalpost. But, it's one of those things that it comes with it. And people now gambling and betting on games, and we kickers are ruining the spread. A lot of people are never happy to lose money on us. And with these close games, I, as a specialist, love it. But a lot of people I've come across, they're just like, they hate us because we're ruining the spread and hurting things. In fact, I was a victim to that in 2020 when just kicking a field goal against St. Louis. I got a lot of messages, not a lot of hate messages because I ruined the spread. So I'll never forget that. St. Louis, love the fans, but so.
Speaking of, so heading into the special, the showcase and everything else, what kind of things, if you were going to be there, like if I was going to be there watching, what kinds of, do you just kick? Do you do the kickoff? Like, what do they kind of drills do they have you guys run through?
So there's a structure for the snappers. They usually always start first. They do an L drill. They do a speed work. They do their snapping. And for the snappers, they have to do their short snap, field goal snaps, and they're graded on, the laces. So if the laces at 12 o'clock, it might be 3 points, or 1 o'clock, 2 points, 3 o'clock, 1 point. That's how much it makes it easier for them that when the holder catches it and the laces are at 12 o'clock, they just place the ball. They don't have to do any turn and rotation, as well as the timing of how the snappers get the ball to this punter. It's a timing there. For the punters, they're going to be, the rules are different. Obviously, in the XFL, they're going to be going right, left, certain distances and where they can place the ball. For kickers, we'll be doing kickoffs first, which will go to right and to left, trying to put that ball between the 5 and the goal line, not too close to the goal line, it's a penalty, but in the corners and from the 30. Then we go into field goals. We'll do about 8 field goals from certain distances. And from after that, for the kickers that can't punt, they will do punting at the end, which will have like 4 punts. So it's very specific in certain ranges because you want to see what the range is and how these kickers and punters can do. If they have a bad kick, can they recover? Or vice versa. When they're doing perfect, they just have to be perfect all the way and they can miss the last one. And most importantly for us kickers, we're taught your most important kicks are your first kick and your last kick, because they're going to be focusing on those. They want to see the flight. They want to see the pop and how you handle the certain situations. We just hate as kickers that we're put at the end of the day, which the weather can sometimes play into effect. So sometimes, depending on where you're at, if it's 12 o'clock now, you got to right to left when it's pretty hard and you got to play things. So it's a lot more difficult in that sense, but it's very structured the way it is. And you just got to make sure you're mentally locked in all day, because they would want us to always check in early. And then you probably have to be sitting around for about 6 to 7 hours waiting, just waiting and waiting and waiting.
So how do you prepare then? What have you been doing? And like you said, you got to California early to kind of acclimate, which is, interesting, right? I mean, a lot of this goes into this. So how are you preparing? Because I know that you're someone that's always kind of set up, ready to go.
First, your health and your hydration and your diet at the same time. Even though I'm in Arizona, it's a different atmosphere here and a different, I had to drive out here and everything and just get ready and just make sure I'm hydrated. Secondly, it's kind of like no different than a golfer going out to the field. getting your swings through and making sure that you don't kick too much, but you're actually aiming for quality over quantity, and making sure that all of the kicks that you do hit are some quality kicks that you're proud of and you can move on the next day. I think where a lot of young guys get messed up is that if you're having a rough day, they keep on kicking. You start developing bad habits, and you got to learn how to walk away. If you miss that one kick, look, in the game, you're not going to get it again. You got to learn how to walk away, adjust, and making sure that it has to bother you. If a kick that you hit doesn't bother you, you're in the wrong profession, because you can't strive for that. You got to make sure you're striving for consistency every single day, seeing how your body is feeling that certain day, because your body feels differently. Maybe you'll hit kickoffs great one day, but then 2 days later, your body, you might be tired, you have to fatigue, and you won't be. You got to make sure you have, in the kicking world, I call it an A ball, B ball, C ball. An A ball is the ball that we see consistently, great rotation. A B ball, you're like, I'm not feeling that great, but I can still get away with this. And sometimes if you're sick, I've had games where you're sick, you're like, you know what, I'm going to just do whatever I can to get that ball through. But you want to show on your warm-ups in these combines, because a lot of good coaches will watch your warm-ups. They'll be like, hey, I see him hitting the ball right. See that ball jumping off his foot. In fact, that's how Seattle, they told me, they watched my warm-up and they're like, that's our guy. You just got to get through the workout. But that was our guy. And that's what they told me. Those are good coaches. They're watching how you react and how you're going through your routine.
Just in terms of, high pressure kicks, game altering kicks. We talked earlier, just about that. Like mentally, how do you prepare for that? Because it's so weird where we could play this 60-minute football game, the last 10 seconds, it all comes down to whatever. How do you prepare for that, and kind of knowing that one swing of the foot kind of will change the outcome of the game?
I think by practicing it mentally. I mean, I used to read a book by the famous soccer player Pelé, and he used to lay down about 20 or 30 minutes before he left to the stadium, and he would go through the scenarios of each kick that he wanted to go through, so that he already relived it. So I do that mentally, making sure I kicked that kick many times, and I'm proud of what I can do on there, so that when I'm in that situation, I've already been there. I've already done it. And to not make sure, because, I think practices are a lot more difficult and pressuring because the coaches and everyone of your peers are watching you. Game day should be just a glorified practice and just having fun out there. So that's the way I like to go approach it myself. And people think that the fans and all that stuff make a big difference. No, a good kicker is like a golfer. We block everything out. I sometimes don't even know what my holder told me, because I'm just so.
How do you, and I know we've talked about this before, just because it's been this long runway here we've had ahead of the XFL here in the 2022 and now 2023. Like, how do you stay motivated and prepared, and you're always like upbeat and like focused and locked? I mean, it's remarkable to me, someone like you, so steady kind of in that. How do you maintain that?
That's a great question, because that's everyone is different about it. But I think it all comes down to who you surround yourself with, and the things that you bring into your life, with the motivational speakers and reading, and making sure that, you wake up every day and, tell yourself that you're very blessed to be playing this game as long as I have. And, I mean, if I didn't love this game, I wouldn't be doing it for this long, because there's something to be said about maybe someone throwing the perfect pass, catching that perfect ball, in that great ball when you're kicking. It's very euphoric. It's one of those things that, you learn from a young age. This is what I want to do for, the rest of my life, for a long, long time. And I'm glad that I'm still to love doing that, because it is therapy. For me, kicking, working out, it is therapy, going out there. I mean, me just sitting around and working on cars, which I love to do. Don't get me wrong. It's a good hobby. But there's something to be said just going out there. Unfortunately, as you get older, the body tells you, hey, you can't do this 3 days in a row anymore. You got to watch out what you're doing. And again, I go back to just making sure you surround yourself with people that, still believe in you. And you're going to have a lot of people throughout your career that are just going to come and go. They're going to come and go. But, the real ones will always be there. They'll motivate you, and they won't question what you're doing. But as long as you're showing the commitment, showing that you're making these steps, because there's going to be steps backwards, but sometimes when you take a step back, you got to take two steps forward.
Well, I am very excited for you. I appreciate you coming on. Really, like I said before, really excited they're doing this specialist showcase. We have a lot of friends of the show, you, Matt Mangle, others that, my heart goes to the special teams, and that's where my friends are at the show. But I think it's great, like you said, all new coaching staffs in here. They want to see everybody. I think they're going to be impressed with you and your work ethic and everyone else. But I really appreciate your time today, and I hope you have a good tryout this weekend.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for always keeping these shows alive. I mean, we're always excited. I love being on here and love talking XFL.
We have Brian Hill here coming fresh off of the practice field here at the NFL Alumni Academy. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So fresh off, just first off, how was your day today? How is everything going? What were you doing today?
Oh, we had a good day. Ran individual, drills. And then I think we all got together and ran team today. We go team Mondays, Wednesdays, and one-on-ones Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So you're in session 1 here of the Alumni Academy. How long have you been down there in Arlington?
This is our 3rd week and our last week, so we did 3 weeks.
And how general thoughts? How do you feel like it's been?
It's a grind, honestly. We came in, we go hard on the field, we go home, eat, and then we come right back, and we're either in the classroom or working out with Chip. So it's all day, nonstop, a grind for 3 weeks, honestly.
Can you talk about the quality of the staff they have there working with you and the guys helping you out?
Well, we got all ex-NFL coaches, you feel me? They either coached in the NFL or played in the NFL. So the quality of the staff is the quality we want, you feel me? We all want to get back to the NFL or get a chance in the NFL, and these are the best guys to give us that chance.
Do you feel like they're able to point out things that maybe you weren't able to see yourself and kind of get that outside perspective?
Oh, yeah, they definitely, especially the running backs. We have Coach Mo Williams. He used to play running back, so he's playing running back. He actually gives us some of his, you feel me, some of his little tricks and niches that he used to remember some concepts or tricks that he used in some of these situations to help us out in our game.
So we've been kind of tracking the Alumni Academy, right? They've expanded this year and bringing in all the positions. Like, how did you find out about all this? Was it your agent? Did they reach out? Did you reach out? Like, how did you find yourself here?
My agent told me about it, so I reached out to them and they accepted the invite and came out first week.
Because it is. It's like it's an application, and you have to be selected. What was your agent? What did they tell you to sell you on coming out and doing this?
Basically, there's going to be some guys who played in the NFL trying to get back in. There's going to be coaches who coached in the NFL before, and basically we're going to be working with each other to help each other get back in the NFL.
If you weren't doing the Alumni Academy right now, what would you just be working on your own training, or where would you be at otherwise?
I'll probably be still in BC, but instead of CFL, waiting on my chance to play on practice squad, because that's where I was this year, just waiting for my chance to play for an injury on practice squad. So I felt like when this opportunity came, that sounded better than waiting on someone to get injured.
I saw you spent time up there in BC. That's America's CFL team. I call them. I cover the BC Lions as well. So a tremendous year there. But when you found out about this, like excitement, I mean, totally open arms coming in and taking part in this practice or the academy.
I was definitely excited. NFL teams always want to know if you're in shape. They don't want to waste their time with a workout. So just doing this program and for them to be able to look and see how I'm running, how I'm moving, how I'm catching the ball, and decide from that film, do I want to bring him in for a workout or not? That's better than nothing.
Yeah, because we've watched it. They've had a bunch of Zooms with, people involved in, creating the academy. And like you said, you bring these guys in otherwise, and then maybe they're not in shape. Maybe they're not ready to go. Here, they're able to see your tape every day, know that you're, and know the coaches you're working with. Talk about the benefits of having that.
Like I said, it's hard to, take a chance on the guy. You want to make sure you're not wasting your time when you create your list of guys you want to bring into your facility to work out. So this whole thing here, like I said, it's a grind. And if you completed this, it's hard for you not to be in shape, honestly. So they know you in shape, dealing with chip every day. And to see how you're moving on the field, they can literally just look at the portal and see what you did every day, all 3 weeks here.
Obviously, first and foremost here, we want to get through the academy, trying to get back to the NFL, right? XFL is partnered with the Alumni Academy, right? So, you get through the season now that you graduate here and move through. Would you be interested in partaking in the XFL here come February if something doesn't line up in the NFL this year?
Oh, yeah. And even if something does line up in the NFL, say I get signed to the practice squad, if I don't have an opportunity to get game film in the NFL, I'm still going to come off a practice squad after the league's done and play in the XFL because I have good numbers when I played in the league. I had good tape when I played, but it's how have I played lately, you feel me? They want to see how I'm running the ball now.
Because I talk with a lot of players on here about that, right? You get on, even if you're brought in, during the summer training camps, like you might get 3 touches in 2 days. And then it's like, okay, like we're moving on or whatever. Like it's so hard. Talk about the importance if you were to go to the XFL, getting that game tape, getting those reps and, plus, high profile, right? You got ESPN and The Rock. I mean, that can't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, the game tape tells it all. Like that's what scouts use. They know what you run already. They know how much you weigh already. They want to see how you play. So the more game tape you can put out there, that just gives the scouts on each team more film to work with and more opportunity for you to get in their head of people they want to bring in.
What are your thoughts on the XFL just in general here as kind of it's coming back and where it's going to be kind of the, alongside the NFL, and they've announced a lot of these working together partnerships. What do you think of it?
I mean, I think it's good for business. We in America, we love football. It's that gap of time right after the Super Bowl until a spring game somewhere that you literally get no football. So I think that the fans are going to take up to it well like they did last time. So we just got to go out and perform and the rest will take care of itself.
So if you were to go back to a training camp now, all the work you've done with the running backs, all that stuff and the conditioning and everything else you've gone through, where do you think you've grown the most because of the work that you've done at the academy where you get back to an NFL camp?
Of course, the conditioning, like I said, if you stay in here, you're going to be conditioned. But I've just been working on the little things, catching, making sure my pass protection, my hands are tight, just all the technical things because once you go full speed, you want all that stuff to be muscle memory, honestly.
One of the Zooms I heard too, they were talking about kind of coaching you guys just to be professional athletes, just in terms of how to approach the game mentally and personality wise too. Right now, it's just on the field. Have you felt that they're trying to kind of grow you guys as just men? And I just thought that was an interesting take that they were kind of looking at it that way too.
Oh yeah, they do things like after we go on the field and after we work out, we come back in the classroom and actually watch the film of our day that day. So it's more, they're really trying to make it so that it's like you're in season now. So if you get picked up by a team, you won't just be thrown in and not know what's going on. You feel me?
In terms of were you to do the XFL portal, have they talked to you guys about that, like how that would work or how you would get signed on to that? Any details of that process?
No, honestly, they tell us we got a guaranteed spot in camp for coming to this. That's really the only information we get as far as the XFL.
But that's got to feel good knowing that you have that fallback plan and a good, it's a good fall. I mean, I don't want to even use those words, but it's a good alternative.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is worth it, makes this 3 weeks worth it, just knowing you have a spot in camp to come out and try to prove yourself and win a spot.
I just got a couple more questions. I have a listener, one of our listeners, Max, helped me write up some of these. What's next for you now coming out of session 1, right? You said, in the 3rd week here, doing stuff through the holidays, or what's kind of your plan here now that we're kind of mid-October?
I just want to make sure I stay in this football playing shape that I'm in right now. I left Canada, so I was still in good shape, being in season. Came here and stayed in shape. I just want to go back home, work out, and wait for any workouts from the league. And if that doesn't come, I'll see you guys in camp in Dallas.
CFL camp, was that hard?
I didn't do CFL camp. I came after during the regular season. That's why I was on practice squad, just waiting for opportunity. Yeah.
Last question here. You played with Josh Allen at Wyoming. He just wanted to know kind of any thoughts about that and seeing, he's had a crazy year here and leaping over defenders and everything else.
Oh yeah, he's not going to stop that no matter how much people tell him to slide. But Josh is a great guy, man. He's one of my closest friends, honestly. Love playing with him. Hated when he got hurt my sophomore year. And that's why I was really on his head about diving and hurdling over people or trucking people my junior year just because I didn't want to lose them again.
I saw up in Buffalo, they put something over one of the street intersections and they have this big cutout of him like leaping over the signposts and stuff. I thought that's great. I like the Buffalo. I think that's a good, and then just any lessons you learned from playing with Josh at Wyoming, any lessons you learned from college that you're taking on your time now?
The biggest lesson from Josh is always the fight, you feel me? That's just the player he is. He's always trying to win the game, no matter if we're up big, we're down big. He's trying to go make a big play. So that aggressiveness from him, like we both click that way. Like we always aggressive on the field. We always trying to go score.
Well, Brian, I really appreciate your time. Wish you luck here. Selfishly, hope to see you in the XFL, but obviously, if you get back, either way, I expect big things, but really appreciate it. Like I said, in the middle of all this stuff today coming on. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.
Well, when I reached out to Rob Vanstone here to come on, I think this is like the fourth time. Certainly didn't. I mean, I knew it would be a good news week. It's always a good CFL news week. I certainly didn't expect this week coming out of the Roughriders. So, Rob, thank you so much for coming. And what about those Roughriders?
Yeah, what a year! What a year! I thought it was going to be a slow week too. It was a really busy 10 or 12 days, and I finally saw an opportunity to take a few days and decompress. I had a couple of days off because I'd worked right through the Roughriders bye week covering all sorts of local stuff and had a great time doing that, but it was just crazy. So I finally had a couple of days with the Riders back and our football writer, Murray McCormick, back from a week off. I thought, okay, I can put my feet up. And those days, Tuesday and Wednesday, were the days that the Cody Fajardo thing went nuts. And I did have a nice bike ride yesterday, but it's been an unexpectedly crazy week. I thought it was going to be a pretty tranquil one heading into a game against Calgary because the Roughriders' fate is pretty much decided, and there didn't seem to be a lot of build up to that game. And now, for better or worse, there is.
So, I mean, Cody came out, the Mason Fine, okay, he's starting. We had earlier this season, Cody got benched during the game. And, but, it was A, that, and then B, kind of the comments and everything that Cody had afterwards. So what struck you the most from kind of the whole events that transpired this week?
Well, first of all, I was surprised by it. I just didn't see it coming. When I look back, it doesn't seem as shocking given a couple of days to ponder it as it initially seemed to be, because, and I've been very staunchly, a very staunch defender of Cody, but it reached the point where the offense, that just seemed like it wasn't going to get any better. It might be getting worse. They just seem to have been in this rut where the offense is what the offense is going to be. So I think there's a case for doing what they did as I consider it more fully. I think, and through no fault of Cody Fajardo's, I think what's happened here is any deficiencies you're seeing from Cody are symptomatic of playing behind a really bad offensive line. And I think we're starting Mason Fine might give the Roughriders some maybe some more hope, is that he doesn't have the accumulative baggage of having played behind that offensive line all year. So he's not going to be as shell-shocked and as wary as Cody Fajardo had every reason to be. And maybe the lack of history behind that offensive line will allow him to perform in a manner that's more confident, because he just doesn't have necessarily the reason to be as suspicious of the lack of pass protection that there's been. So it struck me that they were in a rut with Cody where every game they're going to put him out there and he's a sitting duck. And I think he's done everything possible to move that offense. It's just an offense that can't move. And I think it's left some scars as a result. So Do I think there's a compelling case to do it? No, but I think there is a case. I'm not sure it was a case that they really went out of their way to make, but I think there is a case. Calgary's benched Bo Levi Mitchell, so whose job as a quarterback in the CFL should be sacred? If Bo Levi Mitchell with his credentials isn't playing, I think anybody's in a precarious situation should they encounter a slump.
Speaking of that, because that was what was interesting, and I've seen a lot of comments online. Obviously Bo bench has really kept pretty quiet, right? Hey, we're along for the ride. We're doing this, whatever Jake needs. And here, Cody, immediately, well, I think my time here in Saskatchewan is done, and I at least this is the end of this chapter. Very different tones. What did you make of the comments that Cody had?
Not surprising, because Cody's always been a very honest guy and a very heart on his sleeve type of guy, and he also said all the same type of things that Bo Levi Mitchell said. There were a lot of sound bites extracted from his interview, but if you listen to the entire interview, he multiple times pointed out that he's going to be the best backup he can be, and he's fully supportive of Mason, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he said all the things that Bo Levi Mitchell said, but there was that little extra thrown in. And also, it's a different juncture of the season where this happens. It would have been his final home game, and now he's not even playing that. So I think we're much closer to the end, and the writing is on the wall for him. It's not unthinkable that, especially the way Calgary's offense played last week, it's not unthinkable that at some point Dave Dickinson might say, okay, we need the proverbial spark. Let's put Bo Levi Mitchell back in. There was more runway ahead of him on that season. I think, therefore, less of an incentive to apply kind of take a final bow. Whereas here it's just much closer to the end. And he's made such an investment here. They've made such an investment in him. And for him to say anything else would have been surprising, actually, because it's obviously it for the Cody Fajardo era, even though he's still wearing number 7 and still dressing for presumably a couple of more football games.
Yeah. So speaking of that, and with the math and everything, I remember preseason, they're like, I think I've said this joke on here before, but Saskatchewan, they need to break the salary cap to make sure that they're in the Grey Cup and all this. I mean, now we're not even. I mean, we're in a world where basically their hands are tied, right? It's kind of Hamilton, and I mean, talk me through their chances of even kind of seeing the Grey Cup.
Well, I think I have a better chance of winning Mr. Olympia. That might be the silly way of putting it. Hopefully that doesn't give anybody any nightmares. What's basically got to happen is that the Roughriders have to win one more game than the Hamilton Tiger Cats over the remaining 2 weeks of the season. The Riders have Calgary back-to-back, home and away, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats have Ottawa back-to-back, home and away. If Hamilton wins its remaining 2 games, Hamilton is the only player in this game that controls its own destiny. If Hamilton wins its remaining 2 games, it's over. The magic number is basically 2 for Hamilton to clinch. Any number of Rough Rider losses and Hamilton victories adding up to 2, and Hamilton gets 3rd place. So I saw a number on CFL.ca about doing the math on this, and it's apparently 4%. A 4% likelihood of the Rough Riders making the playoffs. Now, one little qualifier here is, if the BC Lions win on Friday night, and they should win, suddenly they clinch 2nd, Calgary clinches 3rd, and the last 2 games for Calgary don't mean anything. So if that's the case, how does that alter the dynamic of those 2 games against Calgary? If Calgary's playing for something, the Riders might see a much different Calgary team than one that's just in let's get to the playoffs mode. Let's just get through this and get to the playoffs mode. So if there's suddenly introduced into the equation a disincentive for Calgary to play full out with their best people, does that turn that 4% into maybe 10% or 15%?
Because I'm looking at, because BC plays Friday, so then Calgary would know by Saturday, right, what was going on with that. But I mean, you would think BC, but I wouldn't put it past them to find a way to kind of muck this up. And
well, it's still a BC team that doesn't have Nathan Rourke, and they've been kind of unpredictable on offense, even post Nathan Rourke. They can have a big game or they can be awful. So in Edmonton, you never really know. That's a strange team. They're not very good, but every now and then they bite somebody, and a Chris Jones defense can be potent at times.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past BC to give Edmonton their first home victory here after 17.
Wouldn't that be odd?
That would be. I do want to get your thoughts on Vernon in BC, but just kind of putting a pin in the Roughriders. Like, obviously, something is changing in the offseason here, right? Whether it's Mason comes back or wholesale coaching changes. I mean, what do you see happening there, kind of after this season, no matter what happens?
I wonder if we've already seen the first domino. And maybe we've seen the last domino. If Mason Fine comes in and plays a couple of great games, then they can say, well, look, we've made this call. It obviously worked, and we have the quarterbacking situation resolved. Does that buy them all some time? I wrote a column earlier this week in defense of Jeremy O'Day, the general manager, and Craig Dickinson, the head coach, saying they both should return. It wasn't a glowing endorsement of them, but what I wrote was their body of work here, the good far exceeds the bad. Now, 2-9 is a really ugly stretch, and with a Grey Cup being played here this year, it's an especially ugly stretch. But at one point, they had a stretch where they were on a 26-9 roll through July 8th. So does what's happened recently negate everything that happened previously? And I also pointed to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as an example under general manager Kyle Walters and head coach Mike O'Shea. Their first year, they went 7-11, and they started 5-1 that year, and then the elevator cable snapped on, not dissimilarly to what's happened here. And then the next year, they were 5-13. So they were 12-24 the first 2 years. The easy decision there would have been to have them walk the plank. Well, look at Winnipeg now. They're a model franchise. Now, just because that happened or didn't happen there doesn't mean it's going to happen here. But I think it's a cautionary note about perhaps being too reactionary. Do I see the Roughriders going down that path? I don't think so. I think somebody in the hierarchy won't be back this next year. Maybe multiple people. I look back to 2015 when the Roughriders made a move at midseason. They were 0-9. Craig Reynolds was then in his first season as president and CEO. And a lot of people, after they went 0-9, expected Corey Chamberlain, the head coach, to be fired. And sure enough, he was. They expected him to be fired by Brendan Taman, who was a general manager, but Craig Reynolds went one step further and ashcan Brendan Taman as well. And that was a regime that was a year and a half or a season and a half away from winning a Grey Cup. This season, this team under this regime hasn't been to the Grey Cup. So if you look at that, where they have set the bar, and if you look at Craig Reynolds' precedent for dealing with a situation where teams had a terrible season, it starts with and does not absolve the general manager. So if he looks at what he's done previously, I think that decision's almost made for him. I don't see them going that deeply. I think Craig Dickinson, the head coach, is probably in far more danger of losing his job than Jeremy O'Day. And I think Craig Dickinson has been dealt an extraordinarily bad hand by the general manager because the talent simply isn't there.
Well, and that's even Cody in his, that presser was saying, it's so in football, it's this team sport, but it is so easy. Just like, okay, we're changing the quarterback. Like we can't change the whole offensive line here, in week 20 or whatever. Like we can change that. And it's, that give a spark. It's always that, phrasing that's done, but it does, but the quarterback's the high profile position. You get paid a lot, but then you're also expendable there when, you need a change.
Yeah, and that's the nature of the position. And we saw it in Calgary this year. And it's with that, the remuneration is nice, but with that, there is the accompanying pressure and the accompanying expectations, and perhaps the accompanying and inherent unfairness of it all. With that profile and with that position comes the compensation. But I think there's also an inordinate degree of expectations and pressure. And when that doesn't happen, the Calgary Bo Levi Mitchell's salary wasn't a deterrent in terms of the Calgary Stampeders deciding that Jake Mayer would play ahead of him. And I don't see that that's really that different here, except for the fact that Calgary's having a pretty good year and the Roughriders are not.
Yeah, they kind of like. Do you, Grey Cup sold out Regina. I've heard and people say, well, like once, if the Roughriders are really out of it, maybe a lot of those tickets wind up on the secondary market, right? Maybe people bought them, thinking like, do you see that? Do you see any issue with it being there? And if the Riders are not even in the playoffs or anything else?
I think there might be a situation where for $10 you can get 4 Grey Cup tickets and a free car wash. I think those things might be worth comparable to that of Bitcoin, the way if this keeps going, because I'm sure a lot of people, especially buoyed by recollections of 2013, and perhaps feeling a bit more pressure to buy tickets, because in 2013 there were 44,710 people at Taylor Field. This year the capacity will be 33,000 and change. So, and as a result, there's been an elevation of the ticket prices. I think people stepped up thinking, especially given the fact that the Roughriders were in the last two West Finals, that this is a team that was poised to take the next step, not off a cliff the way it seems to be now. So I think there may be a real flood of tickets coming up quickly. Buy one, get 20 free, that type of arrangement.
Well, because I applied for all the credentials and stuff, but just, if we're buying the tickets, I'm like, I want to at least have a seat at the show here if we get denied or whatever. But I mean, I was surprised, especially considering Hamilton last year. I thought they were more, and it, holds a lot more people there. I was just surprised at the market for the tickets when they went on sale. Yeah,
it's, I didn't look at the prices, but somebody actually told me about them one day. I was like, ooh, I remember going to Grey Cups. I went to Grey Cup, my first Grey Cup with my mom in 1976, and I don't think the ticket price was even $20. But I remember looking at that ticket price and saying, ooh, that's a lot of money for a football game. But we spent exponentially more to get on a plane and stay in a hotel to go to that game. So that's just the way it's landed now. The thing is, if Winnipeg gets to the game, I think that could maybe solve the empty seat and the dumping of tickets problem, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of Bombers fans very happy to make the 5.5-hour drive to Regina to claim those seats if people don't want them. If Winnipeg isn't in the Grey Cup, well, I guess it's not too difficult for Calgarians to get here either. But I think that Winnipeg market could be the one that's a savior in terms of the Riders not having to emulate, say, the Golden Globe awards and hire seat fillers just so that it doesn't look ridiculous when the cameras pan the crowd.
Speaking of Calgary, and Jake, we bench Bo. Jake's hot, has struggled a little bit here. I mean, obviously they're riding with him. What do you make of his performance kind of here through the end of the season?
I was impressed with it for the most part. Against Hamilton last week, I certainly wasn't. The 3 interceptions, the pick 6 to Leonard that really changed that game around. I was starting to wonder if Dave Dickinson would put Bo Levi Mitchell in at some point. And I know during the telecast that question was bandied about too. I wouldn't be completely surprised, that to see Bo Levi Mitchell have another go at it. Jake Mayer's been, I think, solid. I don't think it's been exceptional. And if you look at the recent performance, I'm not sure that makes him untouchable in terms of his status as the number one quarterback. And, I'm also interested to see how Calgary approaches these final 2 games if they don't mean anything to them. Do we see Bo Levi Mitchell playing here instead of Jake Mayer? And if Bo gets hot, does that change the equation a bit? I just think, Cody Fajardo said yesterday or on Wednesday that this chapter is pretty much closed, and he's right. But there may be a chapter or 2, or even a prologue or an epilogue in the Bo Levi Mitchell and Calgary saga.
Yeah, because I've heard in Bo off-season trades, and now obviously Cody. Where would you see them lined up, or what do you think is kind of next in the future for both of them?
I think the most likely destination for Bo Levi Mitchell is Saskatchewan. And, he almost signed here in 2019 as a free agent before eventually re-upping with Calgary. And I think if the Roughriders are looking at from an optics standpoint and a publicity standpoint and a performance standpoint, I suppose that's the guy to go and get. Now, if you look at Cody Fajardo's performance statistically compared to Bo Levi Mitchell over the last 2 seasons, Cody's outperformed him, and he's done that despite playing behind a porous offensive line, whereas Calgary's only allowed 13 sacks all year. The Roughriders are capable of allowing 13 sacks in the 2 games against Calgary. So, despite the fact that the level of protection isn't even remotely comparable, Cody Fajardo's still been able to do a better job than Bo Levi Mitchell. But when you look at the quarterbacking market in the Canadian Football League, and I think the need for the Roughriders to send a message. I don't think there's really a lot of doubt that Bo Levi Mitchell is the one that they are going to go and try to get. And if they don't, who else is in there? Unless Mason Fine has such a knockout final 2 games that they're erecting a statue in his honor sometime, in November.
But that's the thing. I mean, I just don't think Calgary knew what they had with Jake right behind. They knew, okay, we're ready. We'd seen it. I don't think you just have a backup that you just like you said, there's a chance he ends up being transcendent, whatever comes out. But I think you kind of know who Mason Fine is at this point. I just, like you said, don't expect him to come in and light the world on fire. I mean, maybe he's better than Cody because, like you said, mentality-wise and not being scarred by, kind of getting his ass beat all season. But I don't think you just have an ace. They don't have an ace in their hole the same way I feel like Calgary did.
Exactly. I mean, if Mason Fine was that intriguing a prospect, there were ample opportunities to play him earlier this year, especially when Cody was visibly injured and immobile. And I think they decided, a couple of months ago to put Mason Fine in and give Cody a rest. I don't think there would have been anybody squawking and saying it's a bad idea. Even after the game where the Roughriders lost 28-10 to BC and Cody was benched near the end of the first half and Mason Fine came in and did okay. I don't think there would have been a lot of squawking if the next week Mason Fine is starting a quarterback because the offense had already hit the skids by then. And Mason Fine did look more comfortable behind that offensive line than did Cody. Again, we go back to the accumulated baggage theory that I mentioned earlier. But now it's almost like closing the barn door after the horses have escaped. But I'm not sure they have the horses. You really torture an analogy.
What was more frustrating offense to watch this year? The Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Denver Broncos. Sorry.
That is why as someone, and I've tweeted, as someone that has lived with Russell Wilson as the Seattle Seahawks quarterback for 10 years, welcome to the world, everybody. We have been dealing with this for a decade. I see this, he's tweeting the videos out and everything. I'm like, this is known. This is nothing new if you lived in Seattle. We've just tucked away in the Pacific Northwest here.
Oh yeah. Sorry to interject, but I'm an ardent Broncos fan, and I am feeling like Cody Fajardo in the pocket right now, trying to watch the Denver Broncos. It's awful.
A couple quick rapid fire here before I let you go. Thoughts on my BC Lions, America's CFL team here? I mean, I know we're trying to clinch second. I have no confidence at all in us beating anybody if it really matters. Just without Nathan, the savior, coming in. I mean, what do you make of us and Vernon and everything else?
Well, Vernon Adams is interesting. He can throw. He can have an amazing game or he can struggle. It just seems it's almost a Trevor Harris type situation. He can have this great game or he can be awful. There's not a lot of middle ground with Vernon Adams Jr. If you get Vernon Adams Jr. on the right day when he's really dialing it, I think that's a quarterback who can take you a long way. But you just don't know. The interesting thing there is what is the timetable for Nathan Rourke? If he's back for the playoffs, does that change things? Is he so rusty that he doesn't have the benefit of a period of reacclimatization? Does that change things? But if Nathan Rourke can step in and be Nathan Rourke, that not only changes, I think, the outlook for the BC Lions, but it might change the power structure during the playoffs in the West Division, in the West Division playoffs in the league. That's a wild card.
Well, it is, and I have PTSD because we were going to go up last year. Calgary was going to be in town, and there were issues with COVID and having all the paperwork right, so we weren't able to go. So I ended up coming back to Seattle, wasted the whole weekend, and I watched BC lose to Calgary 30-9 or something there at the home game. And my fear is this year, if we're hosting the West whatever, and Calgary's coming in, I just think I'm going to go up there. I'm going to try to do a live show, and we're going to get our asses beat. I just don't feel my confidence level on BC is very low right now.
Yeah, I still think that there's something to be said for a BC team that is on the verge of clinching second place despite losing their quarterback in August. Somehow they've been able to tape it together, and so I'm not sure you're liable to be as feeling as hollow as you did a year ago. Now unless you're remembering how hollow you felt watching Russell Wilson last year. I think that's a pretty solid team. I don't think they're going to let you down in that regard. And if Nathan Rourke is back, you may be paid back for what you endured a year ago.
Finally here in the East, Hamilton, Toronto. I mean, what the heck is going on, and who are we going to see here face Winnipeg at the Grey Cup?
Oh my goodness! I remember seeing a fight between what was it? Was it Larry Holmes was fighting into his 40s? He was fighting some fellow aged pug, and it was like, somebody's going to win this fight, but who cares? And I wonder if the same applies to the East. It seems to me that whoever comes out of the East, unless it's a Western team that gets hot, and the likelihood of that is pretty low. I think whoever comes out of the East is remember Sonny and Cher? There's Cher, megastar. There's Sonny Bono. Well, I think the East team is Sonny Bono next to Cher. I think it's going to be I think the real Grey Cup will probably be the West Final.
Yeah, and I think that it feels even more like a buzzsaw than last year with Hamilton. I mean, it really does feel like they're walking right into the. Didn't Sonny hit a tree? Is that miscolored? When did the people hit the tree? Is that like it feels like they're hitting the tree here? Yeah,
it just does not seem. I mean, Toronto's in first place out there, and McLeod Bethel Thompson. I just remember what I saw in the playoffs last year, and thinking, why is he back this year? Maybe he gets hot, but I just don't see it from the Argos. I don't see it from Montreal. I just don't see it from Hamilton. I think that's just that's a coronation for whoever comes out of the West Division this year.
It speaks to what we've heard on here a lot this year of the quarterback issues right now, where you basically have Claros that just signed a $1 million deal, right? And then Nathan Rourke, and then kind of everybody else. It does feel like it's a smorgasbord there.
It really does.
All right, Rob, I will let you go. Thank you so much. And we'll be seeing you here in Regina here in a little less than a month.
I hope that playoff trip goes better for you than last year's, and I look forward to meeting you, and so does Candy, my beautiful dog.
I know, Candy was out on the walk, but we'll see Candy here soon. Rob, thank you so much for your time.
You bet. Thanks for your time, Reed. Take care.
Special thanks to all of our guests. Ron for coming on. Ernesto, love catching up with Ernesto. Great guy. Ernesto, like I said, took time, I think 2-3 years ago on Thanksgiving to come on, do an episode with Paul and I, and then even co-hosted the episode with me back last year during the CFL merger talks. Ernesto, great guy. Wish him all the luck, and all the other specialists taking part in the showcase this weekend. Ryan Hill, looking forward to either seeing him back on an NFL roster or seeing him, run through defenders here in the XFL here come February. And then Rob, always appreciate Rob coming on. Didn't get a Candy sighting today. I think Candy was out on the walk, but Rob's dog. But really appreciate Rob coming on for all of that. That'll do it for me this week. I think it was a good show. I think we did our best with what we have. Like I said, like and subscribe. Get this football off my hands. It's sitting, taking up space. So get subscribed. You want to win this bad boy. This is a beautiful football that would be perfect for any football collector's collection. Even Seth. I know, listener Seth, you got lots of footballs. Don't have this bad boy autographed by Brian Scott. So thank you guys all so much. Like and subscribe. Take care, and we'll see you next time.